I'd like to thank everyone for taking time to listen to the Silver Viper Minerals call today and for supporting our company over the last few years. I'm going to dive right in on the presentation. First, I will be making some forward-looking statements, so I'd like to draw everyone's attention to these slides, both as a U.S. investor and a Canadian investor or around the world. First off, everything starts with the team. We have a very experienced management and board, both with the Belcara Group and Silver Viper Minerals. Here you can see some of our key board members and myself. Again, very solid mix of geological experience, technical experience, both on the analyst side and running a company on Taj's side. Myself running the company from the get-go. And then the rest of our group that you don't see on here, that's part of the Belcara Group. We've got 3 senior geologists with over 150 years combined experience in the industry. This is what they've been doing. They're very well respected. It's what our team is known for, is doing exploration work and knows for discoveries, finding new projects that ultimately become mines. Last big example of that was Orco Silver, where we put the first drill hole into the ground, grew it to over 270 million ounces of silver in Mexico, and then ultimately sold it in a bidding war for 350 million US. To Coeur Mining in a bidding war over First Majestic. So again, this is a company and a group that's done this before and plans on doing it again, and we're off to a really good start here with the La Virginia project. Just quickly here, you can see the share structure, market cap, management ownership's always been a massive part of anything that we do as the Belcara Group, and continuing along supporting the companies along the way. Currently, we have research coverage from Red Cloud, and then you can see a strong list of our kind of top institutional holders, but we've got over 20 different funds that own the stock. So again, it's a very strong institutional book with Silver Viper. Right now, we're a single asset company, the La Virginia project, located in eastern Sonora in Mexico. Been a fantastic project. This particular belt in Sonora is heavily underexplored, mainly due to the topography and access to crossing a major river that lies to our west. But where we are located, there is a bridge right across the local town of Chico on the paved highway. From there, we're 30 minutes on a gravel and dirt road. And so what this project was supposed to be the look-alike for the Dolores mine, which sits 100K to the south, that Mine Finders was operating, sold it to over $1 billion to Pan American Silver. And what they did is they flew this whole mountain range looking for another Dolores and settled on La Virginia being that look-alike. Now, where they focused their exploration work on before they were acquired wasn't, they hit a lot of good stuff, but didn't hit the Dolores look-alike material. When we got involved, we did a reconnaissance program on a target called El Rubi, made a discovery, and since all of our focus has been on that discovery, and that really is strikingly similar to Dolores and other similar deposits around the world. Again, you can see here where we are in Hermosillo. You've got an international or in Sonora, you've got an international airport in Hermosillo. Again, we take that paved highway all the way to the town of Chico, and from there, 30 minutes in on a well-kept gravel and dirt road. We actually, from an infrastructure standpoint, for how kind of remote or out of the way this area is, we've got a brand new power line corridor going through the project that connects that town of Chico to the next town down the road of Mesa Tres Rios. Again, and how I say, this belt is underexplored. You've got Dolores, 100K to the south. To the north, El Tigre is 90, past producing mine that's got some exploration work being done on it currently. And in between, you have no modern operations. So when you're looking at the periodicity of mines in Mexico, that is highly irregular, but it's because of that river and the lack of access across into this particular range within Sonora, which, you start looking at some of the other mines and deposits that you see listed here, and most of the producers that operate in Mexico have at least one producing mine in the state of Sonora. It's the #1 gold producing state. It produces a lot of silver as well. I believe it's #3 silver producing state in Mexico. Again, a very good place to work within Mexico, as long as you're not along the border. A very safe jurisdiction. Our guys are out in the fields in large tents, doing the exploration work, and we've never had any issues. We've got great relations with the locals and lots of support from those communities. Most of our workforce comes from those communities. So again, it's been a fantastic state to operate in and work in, and we're excited to continue to do so. Just quickly here, you can see our claims. We're really excited. This year, we finally hit a major milestone, and we now own the project outright 100%. We made our final payments on those claims that you see in blue. We already owned all the claims in red, which we acquired from Pan American Silver, 100%. So that's a huge landmark for us that we no longer have any of those payments. We've secured title, we've secured everything on all these claims. So moving forward now, we just have to continue to expand and grow, but not have to worry about any future deals or payments on any of that stuff. Again, here you can just see some of the host geography. You can see some of the host geography in the area, kind of not that important. Our main horizon that we've had the most success in is in the andesitic rock. The rhyolitic package below that holds mineralization, but it's tighter. It doesn't allow for the big blowouts of mineralization, and we'll talk about it a bit later on in the presentation. But the model of a deeper contact below that rhyolitic package, and what kind of bonanza grades and widths and materials we could be seeing in there. And then there's an investment thesis that was done by Kreschkat and Quentin Hennig, looking at our material, diving into our database, and really showing us the potential in his mind of what we're on to compared to other assets around the world that have similar host mineralization and different trace elements and things that are going on. And he's certainly very convinced that we're on to a large gold carbonate base metal system. And like I said, where that will work will be at that deeper contact, and we'll have some more slides on that as we move on. Here you can see where we made our discovery at El Rubi. This is the start of a 2-kilometer long flat plateau as you're looking at this picture past the top of this ridge. We made our discovery just on the back side of that large silicified dike that you can see sticking out of the ground there. And what we have is we have this vertical breccia structure that runs our, kilogram plus silver numbers with our high grade gold. Into the footwall of that breccia structure, we have about a 20 to 80 meter wide, lower broad grade, kind of gram to gram and a half gold type number zone. And then 100 meters to the west, we discovered the western zone, and that's another 100 plus meter wide zone of similar gram and a half type material. So what this opened our eyes up to was the potential not only for underground operation on these high grade structures, but to start looking at a broad open pit heap leach operation, which is what this state is known for. Again, here you can see the andesite flow agglomerate being our definitely favorable horizon. Below that, you get that tighter rhyolite, right? So we still follow our high grade breccia structure into the rhyolite, but it becomes much narrower and tighter. We don't get as, the big widths and blowouts that we get up in the andesite package. But because that package is so tight, when those fluids were coming up through the cracks, they're going to hit that tight contact below the rhyolites, and those fluids will percolate out and spread out. And along that contact, you should have a massive zone of mineralization that is, again, what the Kreschkat and Quentin Hennig model was for the project. And we're excited moving forward to test that at depth. It's never been tested. So investors in our company are going to get exposure to the potential discovery of that deeper contact. We've done geophysics work that have certainly lit up some deep targets to vector in where we think we should focus, and we're really excited moving forward to test that theory. Here again, you can see some of our, high grade mineralization, a few of our long, broad, low grade intercepts as well. There's obviously some spectacular grade in that, very high grade, and that speaks to the potential of the underground resource for the project, which we've never focused on. We focused our maiden resource on an open pit heap leach operation, but there's definitely, with our high grade breccia structures, the potential to model and do a completely underground resource on the same deposit as well. Obviously, we would lose some ounces, but the grades would go up dramatically. Again, here, this is kind of the one cross section that looks very interesting, kind of showing that we're not onto the kind of traditional Mexican system, epithermal system. You've got high grade gold and silver right at surface, and then 300 meters down on the same section, you're hitting the same high grade gold and silver, but you still have no base metals. And that's not how this type, the traditional Mexican epithermal system is supposed to work. This is a different beast. This is something that is very different. And then again, you can see on the same section a broad, long, 130 meter wide zone, again hitting that broad, low grade material that's phenomenal for open pit heap leaching. And so again, we know we're onto something different here. What we do get from time to time is a half meter where we'll see some sulfide material that's been blasted up from depth, and that half meter will run with larger base metal grades, but the half meter on either side will still be high grade gold and silver, but the base metals will barely be anomalous. So again, speaking to that deeper investment theory, there's going to be high grade bonanza material down at depth. It's just a matter of finding the right spot in the contact and seeing how big of a blowout zone that would be. But again, similar deposits around the world are multi-million ounce gold deposits solely on that material down at depth. So again, we're really excited to test that moving forward. Here again, you can see some of our visible gold as electrum that you can see through a microscope in our core. Again, not that common in Mexico that you see visible gold. You'll definitely see silver mineralization throughout lots of things, but obviously when we do get our visible gold here, it can speak to potentially higher grades before we even see, what our assays are going to be with the lab. Obviously, another major box to check off on any mining deposit is the metallurgy. And again, our first pass, at looking and seeing how this rock leaches was very good. All of our gold recoveries were over 90%, and the low grade silver even leaching at 76%. With how much of a silver content we would have on a leach pad was also an awesome number to see kind of how that started. So again, major checkbox, not something we have to worry about. We're going to be able to recover the minerals, no problem here. Just a matter of fine tuning that to bring, especially on the silver side, if we can bring those recoveries up even further, that would be great. Again, that high grade material, this is leaching, wouldn't report to a circuit like this. It would report to a different circuit that you would see the high grade silver get recovered in a much different way and at a much higher percentage. Like I said, we did a maiden resource on the project designed around that open pit potential. Moving forward, we may look at presenting both an open pit case and an underground case for the deposit, just to give people an idea of different ways the mining companies could go when they ultimately decide to mine this. But fantastic start. A lot of the open pit heap leach operations in the state started about 500,000 ounces of gold. We're already past that on an equivalent basis, sitting at about 700,000 ounces or 49 million equivalent silver on a 70-to-1 basis. We don't include any base metals in any of this resource on the equivalents. It's about 60% gold, 40% silver. And I like that. I like giving our investors exposure to both the upside of gold and the upside of silver. It appeals to both the gold and silver producers. So again, a very appealing start. We've expanded that El Rubi pit by 300 meters since this resource to the south. It's still open along strike, both north, south, and at depth. Our number one exploration target, you can see here, obviously not in the resource, El Molino. At surface, running even higher grades than what we hit at El Rubi. We've seen some fantastic grades in recent sampling coming out of El Oriental and Las Cantiles, and these are all areas we've never drilled. Mancha Libre is a 2-kilometer long target that's had a couple shallow holes that hit mineralization, but weren't in the sweet spot yet. We have to go a little deeper on Mancha Libre. So again, lots of potential targets, and this is a small portion of the project. 3K to the north, you've got La Gloria, which is a large porphyry target that's never been tested. You've got the historic area of Las Huatas, Virginia, where there's expansion potential, both at depth and along strike, from the work that Mine Finders and Pan American did on the project. And then there's other, potential targets to the east, again, that aren't on here as well. So again, for target-rich project, we've got our drilling permits in place. We just got those this year. So again, 5 years, drilling permits are in place through Semarnat in Mexico. It's just a matter of getting out there and drilling now. Again, here you can see a lot of the ounces that were left out of that pit. I can't remember the exact numbers, but I believe the gold grade of that material outside of the pit was running at about 30 grams gold and 200 silver, give or take, in that neighborhood. And again, it just wasn't enough tonnage to start an underground resource on it. But again, those are ounces that we know we'll recover and we'll get, and on future resources will definitely be included. The other thing now that we're going on, obviously, is gold prices have run up quite a bit, and silver from when the resource was done. So again, that would allow for pits to expand and make more material economic to be included in those pits, which in itself would add a bunch of ounces to our resource. Again, here we've talked about some of those exploration targets. El Molino is definitely our number one exploration target at the moment, outside of El Rubi, where we made our discovery and where the bulk of our resource is. Again, I mentioned the 2-kilometer plateau, again, sampling all the way up at Ruby North. We actually see some copper start to pick up at El Rubi North with our gold and silver, but even mapping and sampling off of that plateau, mineralization continues down below that plateau, going along strike. And these mineral trends are running north-south. There's the potential for that eastern parallel trend of Perdones, El Molino, and some of the other targets south of that. So again, lots of drilling and expansion potential on this project. I mentioned that model and the deeper target that we would, our geophysics lit up, and here you can see it on line 1000 especially. Massive target down below, and you can see how El Rubi shows up here as a very small little red dot circled in that lower line 1000. We got this massive deep target that lit up, and again, that's when we start drilling deep is where we're going to be targeting that deeper contact. I mentioned the high grade sampling, at El Rubi versus El Molino, and you can see how El Molino really lights up even more of those red surface sampling numbers from our soils and everything that were done there. So again, very interesting target, and we see a lot of what we see at El Molino is a lot of these different breccia structures coming together, very tightly spaced. Those breccia structures being our high grade structure, we're really excited to put some drill holes into that El Molino, especially the southern end of El Molino, to see what we can hit up in that area and make a new discovery potentially. Again, here's some of the old airborne magnetic work that we did. And what's always been interesting is this large triangular shape and how all of these prospective targets sit on the periphery of that triangular shape. And our geology team that's not a structure, it's not a shape that you see on surface identifiable. That's probably some form of a buried intrusion, and then would have been a source on the periphery of it for the mineralization plumbing to come up into the zones, which is why you're seeing all those different targets line up on the boundaries of that large triangular shape. So again, all along that you have potential for more mineralization. Some of it might be undercover, but should be lots more targets within following all around that boundary, and then finding additional sources of plumbing on other parts of the project, because obviously that doesn't cover the source of mineralization that you see at Las Huatas, Virginia, La Virginia down to the south. So again, there's lots of different events of mineralization. It's definitely a very active area, looking at different fault structures that come through, both east-west fault structures and the north-south fault structures. Oftentimes where we have those fault structures crossing each other, there's more higher grade mineralization and widths at those areas. And we have a lot of these structures as you move north and south on the project for the east-west, following those main north-south faults that run all the way along for 100K. Again, won't spend too much time on this. You can just see some of the different sampling, mapping lines and what you can see around the project here. This case, silver and gold values. Anyways, you can go back and review those if you want. Again, here you can see that El Molino area, and in the red, they're starting to project where they see these breccia structures on surface coming together. All area and some of the sampling numbers that get everyone really excited. A lot of this project tests dead at surface. When you go, especially to the south, when you go back in Las Huatas and Virginia, at surface, those structures run anomalous gold and silver. It's once you get to a favorable horizon that you really see gold grades and silver grades spike. So to see these kind of grades at surface really shows the potential that we're probably getting closer to the zone, close to surface here, to hit the big grades that we see at El Rubi when we hit our kilogram plus silver numbers, and very high grade gold numbers as well. So again, very excited to put some drill holes into this particular area and see what happens 100 200 meters down below surface. So here you just see where our camp is, where our staging area is, up in that Macho Libre area. Kind of below us in that image would be the start of the El Rubi Plateau. And then you just kind of get in the lay of the land here. This was an old air runway strip for farmers in this particular area. That town of Chico would be off in the distance, just over that kind of first big rolling hill you see in the distance. Again, we have water year round. We have power year round. It's a really good, really cool place to work. And we're here, we've got what we're dealing with is local ranchers. We don't deal with ejido on this project. If we expand the claims to the east, we would start to get into one of the ejido collectives, but here it's all land access agreements with the private ranchers that have the area. A lot of them don't even work the land. There is some cattle that kind of roam around in the hills that people lease the land from, but not a lot of active farming in the area. And the farms that we do have, we've got good relations with the people and water agreements and everything in place. So moving forward, one of our big things is trying to update that mineral resource. You can see here on this slide, our teams identified a lot of high grade kind of areas that originally were identified as being too isolated, that they wouldn't be included into that maiden resource. Again, our team has worked on a lot of the wireframes and modeling, moving forward, getting ready for another resource update, and thinks they can include a lot of those. And then again, with the gold prices changing and helping, that's also going to change a lot of the wireframes and modeling and what we try to include in the resource, because a lot of it's going to be economic now, where it wouldn't have been economic at $1,300 to $1,500 gold. So again, that's a big positive, and again, we're going to see that resource grow by quite a bit, I think, moving forward. And then obviously some about that deeper target, being able to start pulling in a lot of these buried targets that lit up that have never been drilled before. Again, are going to see some drill holes in the future to start seeing, because they're lighting up even bigger than what El Rubi lights up as, and El Rubi's already a pretty awesome target area. So Again, there's going to be a lot of drilling moving forward to test stuff where we might see just barely anomalous gold and silver surface, but down in depth, you're seeing these large, resistivity sections that we need to find out what those are. Another big part, I mean, again, we included in the slides now, but something we've done forever is, all of our ESG work, where anything we can do in the area, we're trying to recycle as much water as possible, trying to sustain our camps by growing some of our own crops, doing things with the communities, supporting, making sure as much as possible is recycled and leaving as little footprint on the ground that we can. Um, Again, working with the local communities, working with the local churches, the schools, the women's groups, all very important for us to support them and continue to do what we can. Throughout COVID, we were providing medicine in the area. Any way we can to work with our local partners, we're definitely there to help keeping the roads in good condition, partnering with them with their bulldozers, sponsoring road repairs, road work. I mean, again, it's been very important as our group, and very important that we always work together with the local communities, because we're partners and we're a team, and we're not just there to, find gold and silver. We want to work together and better everyone's lives in those communities, and that's what we do. Another big part of it is safety. We're proud of our safety record on site. Do lots of different training exercises for dealing with local or different instances. We were there recently, we did some training on a forest fire, and our team actually stepped in, identified a fire that was burning in the area, and helped with the crew to put the fire out, deal with that. It's just all things we can do to work together and keep everyone safe and make sure that we're doing everything the best way possible. With that, I'd like to thank everyone for their time. Again, you can see all of our contact details here. Please don't hesitate to reach out to Alicia or myself with any questions, either by email or by phone. We're more than happy to talk with shareholders. And again, thank you for your time.